A beautiful Monday to you all. For nearly 2 months, they lived in darkness, unable to see where they were, unsure if they would ever return home. Now, one of the teachers rescued after spending 56 days in captivity in Oyo State is telling a story that has sparked fresh questions about one of Nigeria's most high-profile kidnapping cases. According to the survivor, the kidnappers themselves released the hostages before security personnel eventually escorted them home. The bigger question is this: did security forces rescue the victims, or did the terrorists simply let them go? And why do the survivor accounts and the official narrative appear to tell two different stories? One of the rescue teachers, Zacchaeus Olatunde, shared his experience during a telephone interview with Nigeria Info FM. Olatunde was among teachers and pupils abducted in May after heavily armed men attacked schools in Oriri local government area of Oyo State. The kidnapping shocked Nigerians, triggering nationwide concern over the growing threat to schools and the safety of both teachers and students. According to Olatunde, the ordeal began the moment they were captured. He said every hostage was permanently blindfolded, preventing them from identifying where they had been taken. He explained that the blindfolds were so effective that the captives completely lost their sense of direction and could not even tell whether they remained inside Nigeria. He recalled that many of them feared that they had been forgotten. In his words, the uncertainty became one of the greatest psychological burdens during captivity. With no knowledge of their location and no information about their rescue efforts, many wondered whether anyone still knew they were alive. Olatunde also described the people holding them captive. According to him, the abductors spoke different languages, including Hausa, Nupe, Yoruba, and English. He claimed the gunmen repeatedly told the captives that they were members of the Islamic State West African Province, commonly known as ISWAP, and insisted they were not Boko Haram. That claim has not been independently verified by Nigerian security agencies. Authorities have not officially confirmed the identity of affiliation of the kidnappers responsible for the attack. Despite the trauma of captivity, Olatunde said the kidnappers maintain a structured routine. He revealed that the captives receive food twice every day, consisting mainly of rice, small quantities of beans, onions, margarine, and salt. He noted that they never tested pepper during the entire 56 days. However, conditions remain extremely harsh. According to the teacher, the adult captives were never allowed to bath or wash their clothes throughout their captivity. Personal hygiene became impossible, adding another layer of physical discomfort to an already difficult experience. Perhaps one of the most striking parts of his testimony concerned religious worship. Olatunde said the kidnappers initially banned all prayers. After about 1 month, they relaxed the restriction but imposed strict conditions. He claimed the captives were forbidden for mentioning the name of Jesus and were instructed not to pray aloud. Even under those restrictions, he said many remained spiritually hopeful, believing prayers offered by family members and supporters outside the camp would eventually lead to their freedom. Then came the moment that surprised everyone. According to Olatunde, one day the commander of the kidnappers entered the camp smiling and laughing before announcing that the captives had been freed. The hostages were instructed to remove their blindfolds and prepare to leave. Olatunde explained that his own release was delayed because the key to his handcuffs had broken earlier in captivity. He recalled one disturbing moment when one of the kidnappers allegedly suggested cutting off his hand to remove the cuffs before another rejected the idea. Eventually, they managed to free him by using a small rope to loosen the handcuffs. As he attempted to follow the other captives, Olatunde said the commander suddenly called him back at gunpoint. Believing he was about to die, he returned in fear. Instead, the commander simply asked him where he was heading. When Olatunde admitted he had no idea, the commander pointed him towards the correct route and instructed him to follow the orders. According to his account, the group then began a journey out of the forest. They trekked for roughly an hour before motorcycles provided by the kidnappers transported them closer to a nearby village. The motorcycles reportedly stopped before reaching the community, forcing the released captives to continue on foot for another hour and a half. It was only after that journey that they encountered security personnel. Olatunde's description of that encounter has become one of the most discussed aspects of his interview. He said the released captives were initially frightened because the men they met were speaking Hausa and arrived in buses without plate numbers. The buses also reportedly carried Arabic inscriptions, making some of the former hostages fear they had encountered another armed group. According to Olatunde, the captives demanded to see identity cards before accepting that the men had indeed been sent by the government. The teacher also described helping younger pupils during the difficult journey through the forest. He said some children became too weak to continue walking. He carried one young girl on his shoulders and used a stick to test the depth of rivers before helping both children and adults cross safely. Looking back on the day of the abduction, Olatunde said he had been unable to escape because arthritis in his left leg prevented him from running. He tried hiding beneath tall grasses, believing his clothing blended into the surroundings. But a student who refused to leave him behind accidentally revealed his hiding place, leading the kidnappers' commander to order him to surrender. In another unexpected revelation, Olatunde claimed the kidnappers gave him medication for his arthritis and that the treatment surprisingly eased pain that has troubled him for years. Despite surviving nearly 2 months in captivity, the teacher said he had not received any financial assistance since returning home. Instead, he appealed for greater support for his school and the educational community affected by the attack. The release of the hostages has also generated political debate. Following their return, Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde announced that the victims had regained their freedom after 56 days in captivity. The governor also called for a United Nations-backed investigation into the circumstances surrounding the kidnapping, arguing that Nigerians deserve a complete account of what happened. That request was criticized by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, who argued that Nigeria's military and security agencies had already provided explanations regarding the operation and that the governor's comments appear to question the country's security institutions. As investigations continue, Olatunde's testimony has introduced new questions into an already sensitive case. His account does not diminish the suffering endured by the victims, but it does highlight the complexity of Nigeria's kidnapping crisis and the importance of establishing a clear and accurate record of events. For the teachers, pupils, and families who had lived through 56 days of uncertainty, returning home is a tremendous relief. But for many Nigerians, one question still remains unanswered. What exactly happened inside the forest? And who truly secured the rescue of the captives? If you find this report insightful, don't forget to turn on your notification so you never miss our latest report. I am Cassie Tony. Stay tuned as we bring you more updates.